We went over the identities pillar of Zero Trust. We also went over the endpoints pillar and the applications pillar. Now we're going to go over some of the solutions that you can use with Microsoft to support your Zero Trust journey. Hello, I am CEO Rodriguez. So let's go back into, if this is the first time that you are watching these videos and if you're interested in learning about Zero Trust supported with Microsoft Solutions, then I would encourage that you go to back to the other videos and take a look at those. But anyway, so let's go back into the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. And specifically, if we go to the show all, from here you can go into the Microsoft Purview portal. That's where we're going to go next, which I already have it right over here. So in the Microsoft Purview is the main program to manage data. When we're talking about data, obviously, you need to have the right access controls with Microsoft Entra ID, who can access those applications. We talked about that. In You've got to make sure you have a good EDR solution like Microsoft Defender for endpoints and all that stuff. But at the heart of cybersecurity, security in general, is protecting the data. As a matter of fact, in ultimate instance, what we want to do is actually protect our data, right? But we want to protect the data wherever it goes, not just in our computer, not just in our cloud environment, but if you send an email to someone in Gmail, when that person opens that email, you could protect that email wherever it goes. The protection travels with it. And this is what Microsoft Purview, this is what data loss protection it's all about. So when you come to Purview, you come to the home. It's going to look something like this. And again, Purview is huge, and there's a lot of stuff to this. So we're just going to go and cover like the surface of this. But if you click on the Solutions tab here, there's tons of things, right? And and again, so we have already talked about the all these things and DLP and all that stuff. But let's go first. There's a number of things over here, right? You can audit the information. There's communication compliance, compliance alerts, compliance manager. We could spend hours and hours just talking about Microsoft Purview, but we are specifically interested in information protection. So this is the piece. Actually, in the when we talk about zero trust, one of the biggest things about zero trust is also records management and insider risk management. All of that can be covered with this. And so let's take a look at a couple of things. First, let's go into information protection. So before you can protect data, you need to discover your data. You need to know where your data is. But most importantly, you need to know what your data is. In other words, what is the criticality? What is the sensitivity of your data? And you do that with sensitivity labels. So what that means is that before you can do anything, right, you need to create labels depending on your company. So let's just quickly go over creating a label, right? So we're gonna call this I don't know, let's call this confidential. So whether depending whether you are a private company, the government has their own label names, but um, let's say that we want to create this, and the highest we're gonna do also do the same thing. This could be different names for admins. We're gonna do the same for everybody. So confidential, confidential, confidential. Okay. So let's click on next. And now when you enable this, when you create a label, well, first of all, you need to define the scope for this label. Do you want to apply to files and other data access? Do you want to apply this to emails? You could use grouping uses. I don't have the right license for some of these things. But anyway, so it so you can label files and data access like in Microsoft Fabrics, which includes Power BI, Microsoft Action, etc. But let's make this simple because some of these things will give you a lot more options. This could get really, really complex. So let's say that we want to protect our emails, right? So when we send an email, we want to make sure that we can protect that stuff. But you could do that the same thing with Word and Excel and all that stuff. So click on next. Now, the protection settings that you configure will be enforced when the label is applied. So in other words, you need to create a label, but nothing will happen until you apply that label, right? What can you do? Well, you can control access, like control who can access and view the label, or apply sensitive marking. All that there's tons of stuff you can do, but I don't want to make this complex because remember, the idea of this tutorial when it comes to this zero trust journey with Microsoft, I am just teaching you the tools and the what, things that you can do. Now, the how can be very complex, and this is where, you need to have the right people to do all this kind of things. So, let just click on next, just make this as simple as possible. Auto labeling for this in email. So you could have people apply the label manually, or you could automatically apply all these labels. And most of the time, the idea is that's what you want to do. You want these labels to apply automatically, and that's what what you would do. Um, but then you need to display the message to users when the label is applied. So anyway, um, okay. Now it says define protection settings for groups and sites. Okay, and then you can choose whether privacy and external user access, external sharing, and then you can apply conditional access if the email it's going outside the company, right? You could, if you have decide whether private teams will be discoverable in search. I mean, there's tons of stuff that going behind this because when you're talking about email, then you could also include teams and stuff, right? In meetings, uh, and the sort. But let's try to make that not too complex. So I'm gonna click on create. Again, just working with Purview and creating labels and stuff like that. It's now the next step is before then you need to publish the label to users. But um, again, we're not going to go that because this could get very complex, and that's not the idea of this. But anyway, so the matter of the fact is that in order to protect data, remember that this is the fourth pillar. So this is so if you have a project in your company and the project is to complete your zero trust journey in, I don't know, in a year, maybe you start working on this after 6 or 8 months, right? Because there's tons of other things at the beginning. Now, obviously, unless you're starting from scratch, which very unlikely, every company that you go, they have started the zero trust journey, whether they know it or not, or at least they have controls that are aligned with zero trust, which is, for example, we talked about identities. A lot of companies have already, they have an on-premises domain with Active Directory. They synchronize those accounts with uh, AD Connect, Entra AD Connect, to the cloud, and then they use Microsoft Entra, and they use uh, multi-factor authentication. They're using conditional access. Well, that is zero trust. So you're using zero trust already. But then, and then a lot of companies also are, there are many companies that are very interested in protecting the data. Because it doesn't matter how much protection you have, people will make mistakes. There will be phishing emails. So at the heart of zero trust is and the Microsoft Purview is being used by a lot of the most, Fortune 500 companies nowadays. So a lot of interest. So this is a career by itself. If you become an information protection engineer with Microsoft, there is actually um, a certification called the SC 400, which, yes, I do have it also. I have most Microsoft cybersecurity certifications. I think I have, one or two that I'm missing. I'm gonna get soon. But anyway, so yes, this is a very tough certification. I'm telling you, this is one of the most difficult certification that I ever taken. Um, the CISSP and the A plus, honestly, piece of cake compared to this thing, because this is very technical. I mean, CISSP and Security Plus, you could just literally just study, memorize things, and there's no hands-on, right? So people go, oh, the CISSP is one of the most difficult certifications. No, it's not. CSSB is not difficult. Anybody can take those things because you just need to read. There's a lot of theory behind them, right? Now, this vendor certification, like this Microsoft, you need to be an expert and have hands-on experience in configuring these things. And this is what makes it. But anyway, this is not about certification. So here I have the conditional things in, and then I could go ahead and publish that and that kind of stuff. So if I go back to solutions, another big thing of the is the data loss prevention. And the data loss prevention could be either, like, oh, well, I already have one device that it's being managed with MDE. Then I could use a data loss prevention to protect data on those devices or email or whatever. So, but if I go to policies, so this is where you would create your policy. I already created one, but so basically you just click on, create a policy, and data is stored in connector sources or data in browser and network activity, depending. So let's say that I want to do data store in connector sources. Click on next. And so Microsoft already has a whole bunch of categories. So like, is it something related to financial stuff, or is it medical and health, or is it privacy, right? So let's say that it's financial information. Well, so you have a whole bunch of countries over here, stuff that you can choose. But if I choose, let's say, US financial data, it's going to cover a credit card number, US bank account number, and the ABA or the routing number of the bank. So that's what this does. I could create a, so, but if you want to protect the sharing or transfer of the sending of this kind of information, which obviously this is like the most basic stuff, then yes, you want to do that. And so let's do this. US financial data. I'm going to call this lab 2. You can put a description or not. Click on next. And let's see, some of the things just to put in context. Administrative units, we don't want to use administrative units. We're not going to go into that. We want to apply to the whole directory. And then here are the locations. Do you want to protect stuff in Exchange email, SharePoint sites, OneDrive accounts, on premises, all that kind of stuff? But let's say that, let's just work with something simple, because all those things, whatever you choose over here, then the choices that you need to do later on, they get more and more complex. And again, DLP policies can be very, very complex, right? So we want to do something simple. Now, I want to do, the location is Exchange email. No, what about the scope? Well, the scope is all groups, everybody, but I don't want to do that. Remember that I said that similar to conditional access, DLP can be very, very dangerous, right? So you gotta make sure that you do, you know what you're doing here. So I want to do a specific group. Now, this is the thing. I don't have a group created. And again, DLP, you need to have at least a group. That means I won't be able to, basically, oh, actually, yes, this is a, actually I do. This is the all company group is a group that is created by default when you create this account. And well, the name, it is the whole company, right? So this is going to be explained to everyone. So gotta be careful when you do this. Let's see what other choices we have. So review, is that what I want? Yes, that's what I want. That's what I chose. Now, info to protect. So again, we're there. And what we want to do is, do you want to protect with people outside my organization or only with people inside my organization? So in this case, I want to people outside my organization, because the problem mainly is that people sending emails out of the organization with all this. I remember in a company I used to work for, that somebody sent a phishing email with the name of the CFO. They created a Gmail account, something like, the name of the person dash CFO at gmail.com. And they sent a very, very compelling email to someone in accounting, say, hey, I'm traveling, blah, blah, blah. I need all the payable accounts, right? Um, Please send it to this email address, because blah, 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 I don't know, but it was a very good email. The bottom line is that this accounting person um, was strict and actually sent outside the company or the accounts, payable accounts, to this person. And then this uh, uh, cyber criminal then started sending emails to the people that actually owe money, basically saying, hey, we changed the bank account, could you please, and they look at accounts that are, well, almost overdue. Well, your account, it's, past 1 day, or it's going to be due in 2 days, and please send the money to this account. And then they send a new bank account. And guess what the bank account was? Well, uh, so nobody actually, we detected the things. I was involved. I was the email admin at that time, and I was involved in this thing, and I figured out what was going on. So and then somebody in the finance department obviously had to contact all those companies, say, hey, don't do this, this is a, but this was really embarrassing. um, Yes, that accounting person was fired. And the reason he was fired was because that was not the first time that he had done something similar to that. It was a very careless individual. And actually, I would have fired him before that's something else that happened, that we're not going to get into that. But anyway, um, so what we want to do is we want to protect with people outside the organization. So, and then we click on next. And again, there is a number of things. So what do you want to do when content matches the policy? What do you want to do? If it matches at least one, I don't want just 10. I mean, just if anyone says that I can do that. Now, I could say, well, if that happens, I want to restrict the content. I want to encrypt this. So you could do that literally, or, you could block it or whatever, but you could literally say, okay, I can restrict this thing so that, but anyway, so that would take other options that we're not ready to go through yet. So um, again, I can customize the access, click on next. And then in the policy mode, this is another thing, as I said, like conditional access that could be very dangerous. So um, what the default is, run the policy in simulation mode. And then if you don't do anything after a while, I don't remember what basically after a while, then the policy will be enabled. But or you can turn the policy immediately on, or you can leave it off, right? So I'm just going to leave it off for now. Turn the policy off, right? Because I just want to go through, so that, to give you kind of the experience, what, DLP it's all about. So again, this is only for email, but I can create a DLP policy for anything on my organization. I could, because I have a device that is managed by Microsoft Defender for endpoint, that I could also create a DLP policy for those devices, Teams, OneDrive, you name it, right? So again, that's one of the things that I can do. And again, so there's so many things over here. Um, we talked a little bit about um, insider risk management. This is another big thing. So you can create policy to manage that insider risk management stuff over here, right? So most organizations face risk from potential insider risk. So Microsoft, with Microsoft Purview, addresses that issue. There's a lot to this policy as well. So we could also manage records management. And so records management, it's used to for management, right, to comply with regulations, whether it's manage your content life cycle, basically meaning, okay, I want there are companies that by law they need to have certain records for a number of time. Other companies say, well, just to avoid problems, after 10 years, let's delete this kind of record. Or uh, I have worked in many legal cases, right? In legal hall, in which companies by law, an employee sued the company for whatever reason. Maybe the employee was terminated and there was some issues. And so I've worked in many cases in which I have to retain data, right? So the data, so let's say that you want to create a legal hold because you don't want people to delete emails. When people are in trouble, they did something bad, they have those emails, let me go ahead and delete those emails. Well, guess what? Doesn't matter that you delete those emails, we can get those emails, right? Creating one of these, record management policies, right? So we can do all this with information protection with Microsoft Purview. Another big thing we talked about. What else? We talked about risk management, records management, information protection. Again, so e-discovery. That's the thing that when there are cases, I have created many court cases in in my professional life, working as a Microsoft Exchange admin for many years. So and again, so you discover data, you protect data. All of this is part of that um, records management. But anyway, so Microsoft Purview is huge, but it is the core of data protection. And again, it is the heart of zero trust. Now, yes, of course, there are third-party tools and all the things out there that you could use to do some of these things, but nothing integrates more seamlessly with all the Microsoft solutions like Microsoft products. So um, again, if you are using Microsoft already, if you're invested in Microsoft, give it a try, okay? And you would be surprised the advanced features and all the security stuff that you have maybe in your hands, maybe you already paying for it that you don't know about. So that's it. So we went over this data pillar with in Microsoft Information Protection. In the next video, we're going to go over the infrastructure pillar. Um, as always, if you like this content, please just like it, subscribe to my channel. Uh, that way, you would help me grow my channel, and then I can, uh, continue to keep me motivated, right? To continue doing this free content in YouTube. Well, thank you, and I hope to see you in the next video.